Welcome everybody to Two Sticks, One Puck. Today I'm going to be doing a tier list for the 2022-2023 season. It's way too early, but we're going to do my early predictions. We'll start it off with the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are an interesting team. They have a lot of really great pieces coming up for the future. Zegras is going to take a step. Terry's going to take a step. But at the same time, they sold off a lot of their defensive assets last year. They sold off Lindholm and Manson, and they only really picked up Klingberg, which Klingberg's good, but I don't think it's going to be enough to patch the holes. They have an exciting future, but for this year, they're going to miss the playoffs. Next up, Arizona Coyotes. There's not a whole lot to say. We know what they're doing. They're collecting draft picks. They want Connor Bedard. I would not be surprised if they finish last in the league. Okay, the Boston Bruins. The Bruins, it's really hard to gauge what they're going to be this year. They have Bergeron and Krejci coming back, which are huge assets. However, Marchand is out for the first 6 months of the season. And without Marchand, he's kind of the heart and soul guy of the team. I believe they'll be in the wild card hunt, but my way too early prediction is they will probably fall back and miss the playoffs. The Atlantic is a very strong division this year. The Buffalo Sabres, another strong upcoming team. Really excited to watch Owen Power. From the few games he played last year, he looked phenomenal. I think Buffalo has a great future. Tage Thompson just signed that big contract, and if he lives up to that, Buffalo is going to have a deadly offense. The biggest problem with Buffalo is their goaltending. They don't really have anybody in net who's going to be a world beater and make the saves they need in desperation times. So I think they are going to miss playoffs this year, but look forward to the future Buffalo fans. All right, Calgary Flames. Calgary went from zero to hero really quick in this offseason after losing Gaudreau and Tkachuk. So obviously that's not great, but in return, who do they get back? They got Huberdeau, Uyghur. They managed to scoop up Nazem Kadri. Their team is looking really good on paper, strong defensively, great goaltending with Markstrom. The offense, I think, is going to be phenomenal yet again. It's just, can these new pieces put it together on the ice game one? That's important. I think they are going to be a playoff lock, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Calgary can do this season. The Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes, another really great offseason, really strong performance last year. Obviously, they lost out to the New York Rangers in the playoffs. I think they're just one run away from getting a cup. They are so close. I'm very tempted to put them in cup contender. Looking at what we have, I think I am. I think they're a cup contender. They added Brett Burns, and he doesn't have to take the massive amount of minutes that he had last year in San Jose. He's going to be a third pairing defensive guy, and I think that's going to benefit him greatly because he won't have to play as much. Carolina has it all. They have the offense, the defense, the goaltending. They're one run away from getting a cup. Chicago, not much to say about Chicago either. They sold off everybody. I mean, they sold off DeBrincat. They sold off Kirby Dach. By the trade deadline, I expect they're going to trade Taves and Kane as well. They are tanking for Bedard. Absolutely going to tank for Bedard. All right, Colorado Avalanche, defending Stanley Cup champions. There's only one place you can put this team, and that's in cup contender. They have the best defenseman in the world, Kel McCarr. They have Nathan McKinnon, who just signed a huge extension. They have all the pieces to make it work, and they're a cup favorite again this year, and I can see why. The only thing with the Avalanche is their goaltending. Can Francouz step up and be the number one? Can Gorgiev bounce back this season? It's a big question mark, but they did it last year with, to be honest, average goaltending. So I think they can do it again. All right, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think they're very underrated. When they signed Gaudreau, that's just another weapon to their offense. I'm fascinated to watch Gaudreau and Laine play together. I think that's going to be incredible. They're a tough team to rank. I think they will be in the hunt. Do they make the playoffs? I don't know. Probably not. But I think they're going to put up a good season. I really do. Next up, Dallas Stars. Can these guys just sign Jason Robertson already? I don't understand what's going on there. Robertson is one of the most electric upcoming players in this league. He was phenomenal last season. And if they don't get him signed, that's a huge impact to their offense, which is already mediocre. So this is another team that I think is going to be in the hunt. And they theoretically should be a playoff team if they would just sign Jason Robertson already. Detroit. What an offseason for Detroit. They got Ville Husso, which is a huge bump in net. They got Andrew Kopp. They got Sherratt. They got Perron. This team is going to be a fun team to watch. And they're definitely going to be in the hunt. I mean, you have Seider, who won the Calder last year. He looked phenomenal. And with all these new additions, they're going to be a weapon out there. They just might take a playoff spot over Boston. Florida, another very interesting team. Obviously, huge offensive prowess. We saw that last year. They did lose Huberdeau, but replaced it with Tkachuk, as we know. It's another one. It's the same situation as Calgary. Will Tkachuk have chemistry with the Florida Panthers on game one? That's what we need to see. That's what we need to find out. The thing about Florida is with the loss of Mackenzie Weegar, their defense got significantly worse. And their goaltending is a coin flip at best. What is Bobrovsky going to bring? Is Spencer Knight going to step up to the next level? We'll find out, but I do think they are going to be a playoff lock. Edmonton Oilers. I mean, we saw them make it to the Final Four last year. We know what they're capable of. If you have Connor McDavid, you have a shot. They upgraded their goaltending with Jack Campbell. They re-signed Kane. They're really trying to make a push for a cup. Right now, I'm going to put them in playoff lock. Wouldn't be surprised if they take a step up to cup contender. All right, the New York Islanders. This might be one of my hotter takes in the video. They did nothing this offseason. They didn't add anybody. They were in on Kadri. They missed Kadri. They didn't do anything to improve their team. And I don't think they make playoffs. I think they're going to have a better season than last season, starting it off without playing a home game for like 2 months. That hurts. But I don't think they are going to be a playoff team. The LA Kings. This is a fantastic team. They have, obviously you have your Kopitar and your Doughty, and if Doughty is able to stay healthy, That's going to be a huge boost for them compared to last season when Doughty got injured. And you got Phil Deneau down the middle. He's incredible. They added Kevin Fiala. This is a good team. This is a really good team with a lot of upcoming stars. They're a playoff lock. They're going to make the playoffs, and if Jonathan Quick plays like playoff Jonathan Quick again, they have a real shot of making a surprise run like they did in 2012. Minnesota Wild, it's Kevin Fiala is a huge loss for them. But I mean, Kaprizov is one of the best forwards in the league, hands down. And that was after his first full season. I mean, he had a 100-point season. He's phenomenal. This team is a really good team. They still got Fleury in net. I do believe they're a playoff lock. The problem is they don't have a lot of cap room. So to make any significant improvements over last year is going to be very, very difficult. Montreal Canadiens, I do believe they're going to be better than last year. We'll see if Slavkovsky can make the lineup. You're going to have a full season of Cole Caulfield, hopefully. Suzuki's the new captain with Martin St. Louis at the helm. I do think they're going to have a much better season than last year, but they are playing in a very, very competitive Atlantic division. And for that reason, I do think they're going to be in the Bedard sweepstakes. Nashville. I feel like Nashville had the most underrated season in the entire NHL. They have one of the best goaltenders in the league with UC Saros. Philip Forsberg just signed his extension. They added Nino Niederreiter, and Tanner Jeannot was heavily overlooked for the Calder last year. I think he should have had a real shot of winning the Calder. For me, Nashville only got better in the offseason, and I think they're a playoff lock. They had an incredibly underrated offseason. New Jersey Devils, you're hoping for the next step from Jack Hughes. You're hoping they can put it together on the ice. They gain Palat. They have a lot of bright young players. Their goaltending and their defense is not the best in the league. This is another team that I think has a really bright future ahead of them, but this year is just not their year. The New York Rangers. I mean, the Rangers surprised a lot of people in the playoffs last year when they went on a run to the Final Four. I actually predicted them to make it to the Final Four, so I'm happy about that. But when you have one of the best goaltenders in the league with Shesterkin, you have a high-flying offense with Panarin, Zibanejad, the list goes on, and then Adam Fox leads your defensive line. This is a good team. This is a really good team. And I believe they picked up Vincent Trocheck as well from Carolina. These guys are cup contenders for sure. They are stacked. Ottawa probably had the best offseason in the entire NHL. I mean, you look at the list of players they picked up. They picked up DeBrincat. They picked up Giroux. Their top six is insane with Brady Tkachuk. You have Josh Norris. Again, DeBrincat, Giroux, Stützle. This is a high-flying offensive team. Their goaltending, I think, surprised some people last year. Forsberg played better than I think most people expected. The biggest question mark is their defense. You have Shabbat back there, who's incredible, but other than Shabbat, it's iffy at best. These guys, they're going to have a good season. And I think they are going to be hunting for a wild card spot. Whether they make the playoffs, I don't know, but they're going to be hunting. Philly. I mean, what is there to say about Philly? They only got worse. After a horrendous season last year, they only got worse. They traded Giroux at the deadline last year. They didn't make any meaningful additions. I mean, there's not much to say. They're in the Bedard sweepstakes for sure. Pittsburgh, as long as Pittsburgh has Sidney Crosby, I'll never underrate them. As far as I'm concerned, Pittsburgh is going to make playoffs until Sidney Crosby retires. That's the only time they'll ever miss. And this is looking like one of the last runs Pittsburgh could take at a Stanley Cup. They just re-signed Malkin and Letang. They still have the core together. They're looking for one more shot at the Cup before retirement. San Jose, introducing those bright teal uniforms. Love the jersey. Don't know how I feel about the pants and helmet. They sold off Brett Burns. They're looking at a pretty similar season to last year. I know they're hoping Carlson takes a step up, but he's just not the player he used to be anymore, and they have to accept that they overpaid him like crazy. So the defense isn't there, the goaltending isn't there, the offense is hit and miss. They're missing playoffs. Absolutely. Seattle actually had a pretty bright offseason. They gained Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky, which will be very meaningful impacts to their top six. And you have two rookies coming into the lineup with Shane Wright and Matty Beniers. And Beniers looks like a front runner for the Calder this year. I think Seattle is going to be a much better team than last season, but they still don't have the goaltending and the defense to put it together for a playoff push. St. Louis they're identical to last year. Like they lost Perron, which hurts. But when it all comes together, their team looks pretty much the same. You still have Bennington and net who can take you on a run. The way I see it, St. Louis is a playoff lock. Tampa Bay, they lost Palat, which hurts a lot. But with Tampa Bay's history of 2 straight Stanley Cups and 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, these guys will be cup contenders until proven otherwise. You might have to blow the whole team up for them not to be a cup contender, because these guys know how to put it together in the playoffs and they know how to go on a run. Toronto, my favorite topic. So Toronto, the core four is still together. Their defense is good-ish. The biggest question mark with Toronto is their goaltending. Obviously, they signed Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov, and you're looking for bounce-back seasons from both of them because neither of them played very well last season. We know what Toronto is at this point. We know they are an incredibly good regular season team, and nothing else matters until the playoffs. They need to make it past round one for this team to be even slightly successful. So we know they'll make the playoffs. We just don't know what'll happen in the playoffs. Vancouver's an interesting story. One of the best goaltenders in the league. You have Quinn Hughes, You're hoping for a bounce back season from Pettersson. They picked up Mikheyev, who's a high flying winger. He can skate as fast as some of the fastest skaters in the league, and he's a great penalty killer. Vancouver, they should be in the hunt. They have the pieces to be in the hunt. After they got Boudreaux last year, they were in the hunt. They just with the cold start they had last year, they couldn't make the final push. But they should be in the wild card hunt this year. Vegas. Vegas is difficult. I know a lot of people are expecting them to bounce back from last season and put up a great season this year. But I have a few major problems with them. Number one, there's no Robin Lehner. He's out for the season. So you're hoping for a brilliant season from Logan Thompson, who showed in spurts last year that he can play amongst the best goalies in the NHL, but can he do that over the course of a full season? They also lost Pacioretty, who's an underrated goal scorer in this league. Without Pacioretty, they were already having trouble scoring last year. They're going to have more trouble scoring this year. And they got Phil the Thrill. They got Phil Kessel. Really excited to see how he fits in Vegas. But I don't know where to put this team. I'm going to put them in wild card hunt that feels safe. But this is a team that could swing either way. They have the talent to swing up to a playoff team, and they have enough holes in their lineup where they could swing down and miss the playoffs altogether. Washington. Washington's another tough one to rank. They picked up Darcy Kemper, which is a great addition for them after Kemper just came off of his Stanley Cup victory. I mean, I don't want to underrate Washington. They're not going to have Backstrom for a long period of time this season. They have Ovechkin. It's kind of the same story as Sidney Crosby. Like, as long as they have Ovechkin, they should be making playoffs every year. I want to put Washington in playoff lock. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put them in playoff lock. They're just... They have too much skill for me to say they are going to drop out of the playoffs. And last but maybe least, Winnipeg. Just kidding, Winnipeg fans. You have a good team on paper. Kyle Connor is absolutely electric and one of the best goal scorers out there. You're hoping that this team can put it together on the ice. You're hoping that Hellebuck can have another world-beating season. And you're hoping Scheifele can bounce back from, frankly, a pretty miserable season last year. And does Dubois bring it this season? He's basically come out and said that he doesn't want to play for Winnipeg, so is he going to bring it to try and get a good contract elsewhere at the end of the season? I just didn't see a lot of movement in Winnipeg. There weren't any major additions. There weren't any major players they sold either. Winnipeg just kind of is what it is, and unless you get a world-beating season from Hellebuck, I think they miss playoffs this year. So anyway, that's my way too early tier list of all the NHL teams. If you guys disagree, have your own tier list, let me know. This one's just mine. And thank you for watching.